Mark here, half of 4x2 Travel, usually here with Sharon. And today I'm going to be talking about a really fun topic, and that is the cost of travel, or at least our experience with that. Now, Sharon and I love to cruise with NCL, and that's been our history, and to travel in general. And recently, we took a 6-week adventure. We took the Encore just before the dry dock in November of 24. And then we wandered around Europe for 2 weeks and then took the Encore back from Southampton to Miami. Now, we had a great time. I recently sat down and added up all of the cost and was rather surprised just a little bit at the total cost of our 6-week adventure. And I think there's this adage of some people talk about, the frog in the water, that if you throw a frog in hot water, it's going to immediately jump out. But if you put it in cold water and slowly turn up the heat, it will stay there until it perishes. And I think sometimes that can apply to how we go about budgeting and planning. If we had known the actual full price before going on this adventure, I don't know if we would have done it or not. But you start out small and you add a little bit here and $200 here and $300 here and $500 there, and it doesn't feel like a lot as you're going. But then all of a sudden, it is a lot. So I want to just talk a little bit about the different elements and the different costs. So for some people, this might be kind of boring. Others, it may be of interest. So when we first started out, we love sea days and transatlantics more than port intensive. And we were looking at our next cruise. And I saw that the Encore was one of the transatlantics. And this was a year ago. And the Joy had just gone through this same kind of itinerary. The Joy had gone over, spent 2 or 3 weeks in dry dock, and then came back. And I'm going, well, that would give us 2 transatlantics fairly close together on the same ship. And with the dry dock in between, that would give us all of this cool information as we're helping to, attempting to do videos and launch our channel. And that would be something we could leverage. And, because you think if we cruise over there, then if we just took one cruise, then we have to fly back. And, you can almost cruise back for the same price as flying back, or at least that's what you tell yourself at the moment. And so called my cruise consultant, and it's like, hey, let's do these 2 cruises. One was, I think, a 15-day, the other a 12-day, with the dry dock in between. And we have friends in Europe and places we'd love to visit, so we can figure that out. And so we booked inside cabins, and the initial cost for each of the inside cabins was about $2,500. Now, you have, sometimes I struggle to understand their invoices, but we have the base cost for the inside cabins. We added the free at sea gratuity for the extra meals, the specialty dining. We did not add the gratuities. We did not add the drink package. We just don't drink that much. Also did not include their insurance. We'll talk about that in a minute. But the price of $2,500 for each cruise also includes, we just do the prepaid gratuities, a whole nother subject, but that's what we do. So on one cruise, it was $560, the other was $480 on the shorter cruise. But it came out to about $2,550 for each of those cruises. And so we put money down and, went ahead and paid a little bit along the way, because we were started in February and the cruise wasn't until November. So then we'll take this a piece at a time. We'll talk about the cruises, we'll talk about the travel and hotels, and then all the extras. So on the first cruise, we're stopping at the Azores, we're stopping at La Coruna, La Havre, and Bruges, which is Brussels, basically. And La Havre has an excursion to Normandy, which is pretty popular. And one of my uncles was with Second Rangers Charlie Company at D-Day at the Point. And so that was a really big interest for me. So that excursion, a little bit more expensive. So you add $367 to the first cruise with that excursion. The other thing we added later on was you get an invite at some point to do a bid upgrade, and have a whole nother video on the bid upgrade process. But I went ahead and bid about the minimum, $320 for upgrading to, and won it, to an aft-facing balcony. It's like, wow, I've gone from an inside to an aft-facing balcony for only $320. What a deal! So that's another $320 on the ledger sheet. Then we don't spend a lot of money on the ship. I mean, there's so much there already complimentary. I think I bought, we wanted to try the milkshake at the American Diner. Wasn't that impressed. They have Starbucks mugs, Starbucks Encore mugs, but they're $50 on the ship. Rode the go-karts a couple times. We each had a beer at the Los Lobos, and then Sharon did a one day at the spa. And so about $230 of onboard expenses for that first cruise. So all of a sudden we've gone from $25.50 to $24.50. So we've added to that base cost $900 in increments along the way, just turning up the heat a little bit at a time. So then the second cruise, again, we started out about the same cost. We added one excursion to that, mainly because we were coming back into Miami. We had a late flight, so we spent a couple $100 on one of these excursions that a little bit of a tour of different areas of the city to kill some time. So, just a couple $100. Then our onboard charges on that particular cruise were a little bit more expensive. They were $462. Now, a lot of that was because we bought a couple cruise neck certificates. We did the go-karts twice. We did the escape room. We did a few more other things. We did have drinks a couple times. The other thing too is we upgraded again along the way and actually when I called, because we realized that it was going into dry dock, we realized that they were adding balcony cabins on the port side of the observation lounge, and we thought, wouldn't it be cool if we could stay in one of those brand new balconies? And I called our cruise consultant, and at the time, it was only like $130 to upgrade from inside to one of those new balconies. Again, hey, $130 to go to a balcony? That's nothing. So now, of course, the cabins weren't ready, and we ended up getting switched to a different balcony cabin, still on 15, which was still cool. But again, we've added some more money there. So now we're up to, for the second cruise, up to about $33.50 there. So we've added a few $100 more, another $700, $800 to the second cruise as well, in small increments. So you don't really notice it as much as you go along. So at the end of the day, our money to NCL for 27 days at sea was about $6,800. Uh, I don't have too much of a reference. That's for some of you, you might say that's huge. Some might say that's like nothing. But that's what it was. Now we start adding other things on for our whole trip because, we have to get to Miami and back, and we always go in a day before. So airfare was fairly reasonable, we thought, $700 round trip to North Carolina. Sharon found through Airbnb a hotel on Ocean Drive in Miami, which we thought that would be cool. Only $135 for the night. But then we add taxi, Lyft, whatever, to go from Miami Airport to the hotel, and then from the hotel to the terminal. And food wasn't exactly cheap on Ocean Drive. For 3 meals, the lunch, supper, and breakfast, and Sharon and I often split entrees, was over $200 just for food on Ocean Drive. But again, that's, well, $200, it's $60, $70 at a shot. You don't really feel that as you go along. Then as we are at different ports, nothing huge. We had lunch in the Azores. We had lunch and beers in Bruges. But again, just, 30, 40, $50, and Sharon's picking up Starbucks mugs along the way as well. So then we get to England. Now, we knew we were traveling around Europe. We were planning to spend time with friends in Lancaster, which is a little bit further north in England. We were then going to go down near Belgium, near Ligier, which is outside of Brussels. We have friends that are there. We then were going to go from there to Trier. We wanted to go to Germany because Sharon's, a lot of her relatives are from Germany. My dad had been stationed near Trier in the Air Force when I was like 10 or 11. And I remember going to Trier quite a bit to see the Roman ruins and everything. So we figured we'd spend a couple nights in Trier, really cool place, and then a day trip to Saarbrücken, which is where some of Sharon's family is from. Then scoot across to Paris. And why not, if you're going to go to Paris, why not stop at Disney for a night, and a couple days there, and then a day trip into Paris. So we start with this. We did $135 for the hotel in Miami Beach. So we visit friends, and so our first place that we had to pay to stay the night was Trier. And we had a hotel right across the street from the old Black Gate, the Porta Nigra, really cool place, less than $200. So we stayed there. Disney, with 1 night and 2-day passes for both of us, was only $560. And then 2 nights outside of Paris, where it was cheaper, $180. That's not bad. And then 2 nights in Southampton for $220. Now that comes out then you add it up, and I'm booking and paying for these along the way as we're 8 months out, and just booking one a month is that we were getting our schedule tighter and tighter. So but all of a sudden it's close to $1,500 for hotels. So add that into the mix. Well, then how do you travel around Europe? The train system around Europe is really, really good. And so we looked into and we got Eurail passes. Now, the Eurail pass you book it according to your length of stay and then how many actual days you think you're going to travel. So out of the 16 days we were going to be in Europe, we figured less than 10 days we'd actually be using the train. And so it was the particular pass that fit our travel was somewhere around $900 with senior citizen discount. Well, then for only another couple $100, we could upgrade to first class. So what's another $200? So now, in retrospect, that was $200 well spent. It really was great for all. I mean, we did a lot of train travel. We used the trains quite a bit, and the $200 was well spent, we thought, for the upgrade. Now, the other issue, though, is that even though you have a pass, and so a lot of our train travel, we just hop on the train and show the conductor our pass and, no problem. But there are some legs that you have to reserve, and to reserve seats, that's an extra cost. And primarily that was Eurostar. So coming from London through the Channel to Brussels, and then later from Paris back to London, those were almost $100 per leg total. So we spent $200 just for reserving the seats, in addition to the Eurail pass for getting across the channel. And then there was another high-speed train we took from Luxembourg to Paris, and that was another $50 that was required to reserve seats. So all of a sudden, it went from $1,115 that we then had to add another $250 just for seat reservations. And again, it's just these small increments as we go. But so we have the cost of the cruise itself and all of its extras. Now, I mentioned insurance. If we had done insurance with NCL, it was there on when I booked, it was somewhere around $225 per cruise for the base package. But then we wouldn't have had any, so that would have been $450 or so, but we wouldn't have had any insurance between the cruises. So we put that aside and spent, I think it was $350 for insurance through American Express credit card for the whole 6 weeks. So again, it's just another $350 over here. So we have the $6,800 for the actual to NCL for all the costs for the base, the upgrades, the excursions, and buying stuff on the ship. We have the $700 getting to and from Miami. We have almost $1,500 for the different hotels, 8 different nights of hotels during our stay in Europe. Another almost $1,400 for our Eurail passes. Now, that doesn't include all the miscellaneous fees that were food along the way, eating at different restaurants, not extravagant, but except maybe Miami Beach, but just trying to keep, costs reasonable. And then a number of fares for using the underground in London, using the subway in Paris. Those systems are not included on Eurail. So at the end of the day, you want to guess how much our 6-week, and I haven't talked about anything like what things we purchased for the trip beforehand, like extra clothing, shoes, I got some sneakers that are waterproof. So excluding that, but including, I picked this nice hat up in Belgium. That was $50. But when and Sharon's 8 Starbucks mugs that she picked up. But you start adding everything together, and all of a sudden we're at almost $12,000 for our 6 week trip. Uh, that's a lot of money. And again, it didn't seem like that along the way because we're just, it's a little bit here, and then you add a little bit here, and then you reserve this hotel, and then you pay for this other thing. And it isn't until you add it all up that you really realize that that probably didn't really fit into our budget last year. Uh, you know, now at the end of the day, we had a fantastic time. We really, really enjoyed our time on the ships. We enjoyed everything we did. It was a fantastic thing traveling across Europe by train, visiting Christmas markets, visiting friends. It was an awesome adventure. Again, had I known it was going to be $12,000 at the outset, I probably would have decided it wasn't the wisest purchase expense we made recently. But that just, I hope, helps you understand. Now, I hope it doesn't scare you and go, oh my gosh, I can't afford to go anywhere. I think what it is maybe is that it might be wiser for us to think through the expenses up front, think of ways that maybe we save money, maybe it wasn't worth it to, at the end of the day, I'm not sure it was worth it to spend time in Disney. We could have spent more time with our friends and cut down on hotels. There's different ways, and maybe just a 6 week adventure wasn't the wisest thing for us to do. But, sometimes we do those things that don't make sense, aren't the wisest, but end up being these awesome events that help to, I don't know if I'd say define us, but really create memories and who we are. So if you have specific questions about the different costs and how I've run through all of this, go ahead and leave a comment, and please subscribe, ring the bell, all that other kind of stuff. That really helps us. Would we do this again? I think now of course, if our YouTube channel exploded, and with your help subscribing and all, and we could realistically write the whole thing off as a expense and get paid for it, I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Other than that, I think maybe we tone it down a little bit, and we're going to take shorter trips, just a wiser use of our money. I say that, but the next time I go online and I go, Sharon, look at this deal. And we could go and we could come back and it would be cheaper than flying. And it isn't that much more to upgrade. You can easily go down those rabbit holes. And, sometimes that's fun, and it's good to go down a rabbit hole once in a while and make the best of it. And I hope at the end of the day that you travel well. And that means not, having to foreclose on your house because of the trip you did. But that you travel well and you live well.